I have just encountered the vampire Nosferatu. Okay guys, welcome back to the channel. Right, I haven't done a solo review for quite a while, so must mean this movie's a bit of a banger. We'll see. So I just got out of the cinema last night after seeing this hotly anticipated next vampire venture from Robert Eggers. He's been wanting to make this film for quite a while, as I understand, so I'm just going to give you some thoughts on the movie, some spoiler-free thoughts on the movie. Yeah, I'm going to get into certain details of the movie, but keeping it quite vague. There's just certain sections, maybe the structure of the movie, that I want to get into. So if you don't want to know anything, maybe just come back after you've seen the movie. Just to give you a heads up on where I'm at when it comes to Robert Eggers, I think this guy is generally one of the freshest voices that we've had in the last 10 years. I just think he's making some gnarly, authentic period piece movies with some drips of psychedelic imagery and a lot of the time inflicting some pretty horrific, intense horror. The Witch was a film I enjoyed. Definitely his most unnerving piece of work thus far. Great performances, especially when we're speaking about the dialect used in that movie, which granted is something that I actually struggle with when it comes to The Witch. But it was certainly a great coming out party for Eggers and made him a voice that we should all be definitely keeping an eye on. The Lighthouse is a movie I like more than some of my peers that I've seen, just because I like the absolute tapped out nature of this film, and for me it has two absolute wild tapped out performances from Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe. A lot of farting, a lot of pissing, just like gets pretty gnarly, man, between them two, but pretty freaky as well. I'm about the freaky nature of that film. When I'm in the right frame of mind, I can really get down with The Lighthouse. Not one that I'm watching every weekend by any stretch of the imagination, but it was different, man. The aspect ratios when it comes to The Lighthouse, the dialogue that was used in there, colour scheme, I think it was really saying that, look, this Robert Eggers guy, he's not just a one-trick pony, man. Then we have The Northman, which was one of my favourite movies of 2022. Again, standout performances throughout the movie, an authentic take at the Viking Age with some very psychedelic imagery with like Valhalla and stuff like that. And just a flat-out badass revenge tale. Quite more straightforward, I would say, The Northman is. But again, like showing us what Robert Eggers can do with a camera. We all remember that the tracking shot that he did in The Northman that was in the trailer, and it spoke to me on many levels, that shot. He's just a director that's always in the consciousness. Whenever there's a film that he's about to announce or anything like that, I'm listening and I am waiting to see what it's going to be about. All right, guys, before we get into this review good and proper, I'll give you a plot summary from the good old interwebs. In the 1830s, estate agent Thomas Hutter travels to Transylvania for a fateful meeting with Count Orlok, a prospect client for a new home. In his absence, Hutter's new bride, Ellen, is left under the care of their friends, Frederick and Anna Harding. Plagued by horrific visions, an increasing sense of dread, Ellen soon encounters an evil force that's far beyond her control. Right, let's get into this spoiler-free-ish review. Overall thoughts on the film? I pretty much loved it. Now, as you can see from the date I'm releasing this, I wasn't in a mad rush to see the film. There were a couple of reactions out there that made me lower my expectations. Don't get me wrong, I've seen the word masterpiece bandied about a lot in relation to this film, and that's fair enough, but I actually think there's quite a lot of Eggers stans out there who are just gonna like blindly give this bloke 5 stars no matter what. And look, to each their own, everyone's got their favourite director, but I actually took the word of people who I trust, like my friends, and I just ended up setting my sights a little bit lower when it came to Nosferatu. This movie isn't perfect by any means, but I had a fantastic time with it. I have got a couple of issues with it, which we will get to. I do feel like Eggers has been building up to this movie for his entire career. I think he wanted to make this movie straight after The Witch, which I think, honestly, would have been a mistake. I think because he's had that experience with his 3 prior films, it just made this film all the better, in my opinion, if not his best. Not sure how I would rank this in relation to his other films yet, but give this film a few months and we'll see how we get on. I'm an extremely big fan of the vampire subgenre, and in my eyes, he really came through with an absolute banger here. Is it a classic, like I say in the thumbnail? I just don't know yet. At certain points in the movie, I definitely felt like I was watching a new classic. Something akin to Bram Stoker's Dracula, but I also think that has got some similar problems that Nosferatu, which don't want to spoil that yet. We'll get to that in my negatives when we get there. The pace of the movie is solid. I've seen a few opinions of the mind it maybe slows down in the second half, but I actually disagree with that. I think the first half of the movie is where it's pretty slow, deliberately. Not a bad thing. The whole movie is a slow burn. I think all of Eggers' movies are, for the most part. But I've got to say, guys, I was invested in this movie from start to finish, and I had a really, really good time with it. So I think when I knew I was loving this film is in actually the first half of the film, the slower part, if you will, where we follow Nicholas Holt's character on his way to see Count Orlok to finalise a deal of Count Orlok moving to where Nicholas Holt's character lives with his wife, Lily Rose Depp. Like, essentially, this film is just about Count Orlok wanting to get down and jiggy with Nicholas Holt's wife, Lily Rose Depp. Wasn't fully expecting that. Like, I have not seen the original Nosferatu, the silent film, or I haven't seen the one with Willem Dafoe in either. But, yeah, man, that was an aspect of the film that I wasn't fully expecting, to be fair, and I was pretty on board for the most part. But yeah, without a doubt, my favourite sequence in the film is where we finally get Nicholas Holt's character meeting Count Orlok in his castle in Transylvania. I mean, that whole sequence is absolutely amazing. I think it's unreal how Robert Eggers chooses to show and what not to show of Bill Skarsgård's Count Orlok. A lot of lighting situations in here, a lot of like out of focus shots when it comes to Count Orlok. It was just like chef's kiss. I was eating all that stuff up, man. The second half of the movie is where we get introduced to Willem Dafoe's character, and he definitely injects some life into the movie at that point. It's always a great time seeing Willem Dafoe in anything, one of my favourite actors working today. But like, he absolutely 100% knew the assignment when it came to this movie. He was awesome. At around the halfway mark, when Orlok finally comes to the new home by boat, which there's actually a film out there totally dedicated to that boat journey called The Last Voyager, I think it is, which I actually do recommend. I enjoyed that film. I think it came out last year. Didn't get amazing reviews or anything like that, but you know what? It's an okay time to kill 2 hours too. I actually wish we got a little bit more when it came to the boat journey in this film, because there was a few things happening whenever we cut back to the boat. There was some crazy shit happening, and I wanted to see more of that crazy shit. With Count Orlok coming to this new home, he does bring the plague with him, and that was definitely a factor that I liked about the movie. Just gave it an extra disgusting element. Disgusting flavour to it, if you will, and something else that our protagonists have to deal with that's not just this horny old crazy vampire.
Am I devious? Yes, I think I am.
So let's get into some of these performances. Let's start with Nicholas Hoult, who, I'm sorry, is having an absolute banger of a year right now. A banger of a career, should I say. So we've seen Nicholas Hoult in 3 films in the space of 1 week. And he's gave a fantastic performance in each of them. I saw him in Juror Number 2, which is like this courtroom drama that he's great in. The Order, which was awesome little flick, which he's bloody fantastic in. Actually plays like this 1980s white supremacist, which is totally out of left field for Nicholas Hoult, but I thought he was awesome in it. And now Nosferatu, which he's awesome in too. Like, he's definitely one of the better players in this film. Now, he definitely has more to do in the first half than the second half, but the fear and dread on this guy's face when he starts to realise who Orlok is, he's this creepy, old, horny vampire fucker, is great. I have extremely high hopes for him playing Lex Luthor in James Gunn's Superman. I think he's going to absolutely crush it. Apparently, Bill Skarsgård was in this movie. I never saw Bill Skarsgård. I only saw this demon creature, this vampire monstrosity that he totally encapsulates. I mean, this guy is becoming one of my favourite actors. I think whether we are talking about him playing Pennywise or turning into one of the most kick-ass martial arts deaf ninja geezers I've ever seen in my life, from the amazing Boy Kills World from last year, or Count Orlok himself. The man's a total workhorse, and I think he just submerges himself in any role that he takes on. Yep, guys, I know, let's not bring up The Crow in a review about a good movie. Let's just put that to bed, yeah? He's recently spoke about wanting to play the Joker, or should I say that he had a good Joker in him. I mean, fuck yeah, man. Give this guy James Gunn's Joker of this new DCU that he's setting up. I would be totally on board for that one. But Count Orlok himself, I thought he looked amazing. I know there's a few opinions out there that they don't really like the tash. Man, I came out of the cinema, I was like, you know, I might have a shave when I get home. No, I'm only joking. But the makeup design is absolutely flawless in this. I really like the look of him. Can anyone remember Vlad the Impaler music video by Kasabian? I mean, sort of imagine that. Just like if this Bill Skarsgård had like long droopy hair in this film. Like, we're nearly there, folks. We're nearly there. Bill Skarsgård, man, is the MVP of this movie for me. Every time he was on screen, totally locked in, totally stealing the scene. As I mentioned before, Willem Dafoe is as awesome as to be expected. Like I've said before, like when he comes into the film, he injects a little bit of levity in what's a pretty dour film. And Ralph Fiennes, who I was delighted to see, and I'm delighted to say he was in this film a lot more than I actually thought he was going to be. Like, that voice he's got is absolutely superb. Truly awesome performance by both men. They knew what movie they were in. They knew to bring the sauce, and, you know, absolutely phenomenal performances by these two veteran actors. Now, let's get into some of the other performances, and this is where some of my negatives start coming in. Sorry, guys. Let's start with Aaron Taylor-Johnson. Let's get Aaron Taylor-Johnson out of the way, who plays Frederick, along with his wife, played by Emma Corrin. Now, the latter is pretty good in the movie. Although they aren't in the movie that much, I was never bothered by the performance. I actually think it's pretty good with what they have to do. They have to react to some pretty gnarly things in this movie, and my God, they did a pretty good job with it. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, on the other hand, just seemed a little bit out of his depth here. And it only was magnified when he's around the likes of Holt, Dafoe, and Ralph Fiennes. There's a certain camp to it that he's bringing that's just not working for me, because I don't think the others are. I never know how I'm going to feel with Aaron Taylor-Johnson. One minute, I want him to play James Bond. Next minute, I'm like, that's a terrible performance. Get the hell away from 007. I do think sometimes he puts in a blinder performance, like he did in Bullet Train, but then other times it's a total shocker. Like, and don't get me wrong, folks, I'm not coming at this with the bad taste of Craven in my mouth. I did not see that film, although I had middling expectations for Craven, but with the reviews and stuff like that, I was just like, look, it seems like an all-round piece of shit. I won't be watching it. So I didn't come into Nosferatu with that when it came to Aaron Taylor-Johnson. I just think he's pretty terrible in the role. There was a couple of scenes to begin with, I was like, oh, I can get on board with this, but I don't know. There was a couple of line deliveries in here and stuff like that where, I don't know. Aaron Taylor-Johnson, I'm sorry, but you just didn't work for me in this film. And unfortunately, the other performance that just didn't work for me whatsoever is Lily Rose Depp, who again just feels slightly out of a depth here. I seem to be in the minority with this one, definitely. Word on the street is that this role was supposed to go to Anya Taylor-Joy, and for me, that is just extremely depressing. She ended up doing Furiosa, because I think Anya Taylor-Joy would have been perfect in this role. I think she's an awesome actress. I think she's got the track record to back stuff like that up. Lily Rose Depp, for me here, I don't know, man. Like, I would, to me, she just looks like a sort of like that classic Tim Burton-y sort of actress that would have been in one of his films in the 90s, but with nothing to really chew on. Like, don't get me wrong, there's a few scenes in the latter half of this movie that she definitely improves on, but my God, for the first hour of this film, I was like, really cringing at some of the melodrama going on with Lily Rose Depp and how she was delivering some of the lines. Was really taking me out of it for a certain amount of time. And there's a place in the movie where she like has to distort her body and stuff like that, which I thought, was pretty good, but like I think it was sort of done in The First Omen a lot better. Body distortions in horror movies are seeming to become like a bit more of a thing. And is that what we're saying, Lily Rose Depp? Is that like what we're judging these like, oh, she needs to get an Oscar because she like distorts her body in the film? Sorry, guys, I might be seeming a little bit harsh here. Lily Rose Depp just didn't work for me in this film. And the only other slight negative I've got with the movie is a bit nitpicky-ish, but music does mean a lot to me when I'm watching a film. Like a good score can like bump up a film like a whole mark for me. And this one just wasn't there when it came to the music in this film. You get something like Bram Stoker's Dracula. A lot of stuff going on in that film, but one of the highlights of that movie is the score. It's got this big bombastic score in it, and I feel like that was sort of needed in Nosferatu. And while we're on the topic of that film, when I was watching it, it's an amazing vampire flick, but it did remind me, it was like, oh yeah, Bram Stoker's Dracula. Amazing film, but that has also got two performances that I didn't care for in the slightest. Winona Ryder, I don't think is very good in that film, and Keanu Reeves, God love you, Keanu, but the less said about that performance, the better, my friend.
Bloody wolves chasing me through some blue inferno.
I don't want them sort of issues to distract from the fact that this is actually a really, really good film. And I was pretty hyped when I come out after watching it. Like, I've came home and instantly wanted to marathon all of Robert Eggers' catalogue, which I will be doing as soon as I've uploaded this review. But on a directional standpoint, Eggers directs the shit out of this film. It looks beautiful. It looks haunting. It works on so many levels. The cinematographer absolutely deserves a raise. Like, this film, oh my God, there's a certain scene with a horse and carriage. That whole, like I said, the whole sequence of Nicholas Hoult, as soon as he gets into that horse and carriage and goes to the castle of Count Orlok, there's about a 20-minute stretch there that I was like, Jesus, this is going to be a 5 out of 5. Easy. And this film did sort of just like hit me at the right time, like just sidetracking slightly here, folks. I've been obsessed recently with this game called The Order 1886, which takes place around the same time, looks a bit similar to what's going on in Nosferatu, but they're dealing with werewolves and that. I haven't actually played it yet because it got a ton of terrible reviews, but when I got home last night, I instantly downloaded that sucker and I'm going to play it regardless of the reviews. And also, this Nosferatu's give me some Bloodborne from Software. Played a little bit of that. Love the world that encapsulates and stuff like that. And just while I'm on the subject of From Software, I would love to see Robert Eggers tackle something akin to Dark Souls, like this fantasy action epic, which we did sort of get shades of with The Northman, but I think he could really hone that in, like focus on that a little bit, like just not maybe it's a Dark Souls adaptation, but something similar to that. My score on Nosferatu, I was toying with a 4.5 stars out of 5. I think I'm just going to go the highest of 4 stars, which is a solid 8 out of 10 for me. I have problems with some of the performances. The music is definitely weighing this score down for me slightly. I might watch this on release, which it definitely will be a day one purchase for me. They've said that they're going to release like a extended cut on Blu-ray 4K, which I'll definitely be getting. Who knows, folks? Might go up to 4.5 stars out of 5 at some point. Is it a vampire classic? No, I don't think so, but I think we've got a true solid banger of a vampire flick to enter into the subgenre. But anyway, folks, felt compelled to get on and do a review for this one. You can see by the channel that my reviews have slowed down a little bit, just to give you a little heads up of what will be coming in this year, 2025. As you've seen on the channel, I have got 2 reviews up at the moment. We're calling these re-reviews of older films. There is Total Recall up, which seems like a no-brainer for the first one. And we've got Die Hard up to celebrate Christmas just gone. I'm doing these with friends that you've seen. You know, I've got Paul Tams on the channel. I've got Badger Phipps. I've got Electric Geek on the channel. We'll be doing these about once a month. Please come check it out. I'll spoil it right now. The next film that we will be recording and re-reviewing is Superman Returns from 2006. Just with that new Superman trailer coming out, thought that'd be a good one to cover. Haven't seen many reviews out there for that certain movie, but yeah, folks, that has been my review for Nosferatu. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time. Bye bye.